I'm Jennifer Sanders, and I have the honor and privilege of interviewing my colleague and my friend, Mr. Dave Longley, who is now our assistant news director, former chief meteorologist. Dave, thank you so much. So last week we saw the interview with Selma Blair, who was discussing her diagnosis with MS and kind of her journey with that. The question I get a lot when I go out in the public, on my Facebook page, everywhere, is how is Dave Longley? So I'm going to ask you right now, how is Dave Longley?
Yeah, I'm here, you know, as often. Some days are better than others. I'm gonna write a blog, but you know, nothing new. So it's just a gradual progression of things. Speech a little bit worse, if you will. I had to be a little bit slower. I've noticed some balance issues, walking. It's difficult for me to stand for a long time. So really nothing new. We're maintaining and dealing with anything new that crops up as far as the progression of things. But, you know, I'm here. Yeah. You can't get rid of it. And, you know, I continue. It's been about 2 years on this new job. And so I'm learning every day, you know, learning to be a manager, and I still do weather, and I'm still involved with that. You know, I don't look at coming off air as being you know, a sad event. I look at that as, you know, I did weather for 25 years. So we turn the page and we do something different.
Started a new chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? When was the moment that you knew I might need to transition out of being StormTeam chief meteorologist into an assistant news director?
Well, you know, I was diagnosed with MS in 2005, and for the first few years I was able to kind of hide it, if you will. But I would say probably when I got to be 4 or 5 years before I transitioned is when I knew, you know, I began looking like, gosh, what else am I going to do? You know, here's a guy with a degree in meteorology. What am I going to do? And, you know, I thought about management, but I was like, you know, I really didn't have much experience. But Channel 9 was, you know, kind enough to give me the chance to slide into this role, and I think it's worked for good for all of us. You know, I'm still here. I'm still involved. I'm still kind of involved with what goes on in the weather office.
That's your heart.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, whether it's directing news coverage of big weather events, kind of acting as a go-between between the newsroom and the weather office, and say, okay, let's take a deep breath and figure out. And so I would say about 5 years before the switch, and you know, I'm very grateful for where I am today.
And let's go back to 2005 when you were diagnosed. I know several people close to me who have MS, and sometimes doctors say, well, it might be this, it might be that, and maybe you're crazy, maybe you're just over-exaggerating this. For you, what were the symptoms? When did you know, okay, I do have MS and I'm able to treat this now?
You know, that's the weird thing, Jennifer. You know, I see so much, whether Selma Blair or, you know, really the difficulty in getting diagnosed. You know, it's not like there's a definitive test that it comes back and you have MS. Right now, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society says you have to have to symptoms, whether it's exacerbations or whatnot. So what I noticed, first off, was the tremor in my right hand. And frankly, I brought that up to my general doctor, general practitioner, and she said at the time, well, let's just scan you and see what's going on, going for an MRI. So I went in for the MRI, didn't really think anything of it, and about a week later, she called back and said, you probably have MS. And
what was running through your mind?
I'm a little choked up now, but I cried, but the scientist in me was like, well, all right, am I gonna die? No. Am I gonna end up in a wheelchair? Maybe. But there are drugs available, and so we'll just fight and keep going and learn as much as I can do, and that's where I am today.
Yeah. You can be choked up because I'm choked up too, so that's fine. We'll be choked up together. I do want to talk, you just brought up, the drugs and the medication. First of all, it's not cheap. It is not cheap.
No.
And it has a huge impact on you. Most medication makes you feel better, but these can have some side effects that cause complications.
It's kind of the weird thing. The drug I'm on, Tysabri, I take it every 6 weeks. Go for an infusion, and you're right. A lot of times you take medicine and you feel better. I don't want to have that. But I know it works because I have no new symptoms. So it's doing its job. There is no cure for MS. So if we can slow it down and slow down the progression, that's a big thing. But you're right, Jennifer. Drugs are expensive. Yeah. I mean, my bill that I look at, granted, insurance covers, it's many thousands of dollars every 6 weeks. And there are people that can afford that. And some people that forego medication because they can't afford it. And I know yesterday, a lot of folks are in Washington talking to lawmakers about the cost of prescription medication. Part of the problem is the research that's involved, and so you're trying to fund that and subsidize that, and it's difficult.
It's tricky. Now I know fatigue obviously is a big issue and symptom related to MS. So it boggles my mind when you talk to me about you have to go to this state, to that state with your son. He's very active, very busy. We're all so proud of him. But somehow you manage to balance it all, and you manage to do it with a smile, too.
Well, I try. It's tough, I'm kind of a recluse when it comes to the weekends. When I am home, when I do have days off, and I take naps and try to stay, I know they say you can't store sleep up, but you get it when you can, and you stay rested. And there are times where I'm like, I've just had enough, I need a break. And so I do that.
What impact has it had on your family? You have a beautiful family, your son and your wife, Colleen. How has it been for them dealing with everything?
Well, it's part of it is difficult. When I'm trying to do things around the house, and I can't. I can't do fine-tuned things, and it's frustrating for me as a dad and a husband. And but on the flip side, both my son and wife have been very understanding and very supportive. And part of my therapy, if you will, is being able to ask for help.
Yes, yes.
You know, you have to cast aside the macho man, handyman image and say, oh, I can't do that. I need help.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So now, what do you feel like the future is for MS? You know, unfortunately, I know someone just last year who was diagnosed with it, and sometimes they kind of have a bleak outlook, but like you said, MS will not kill you.
It's not going to kill you. You're not alone. In fact, as they kind of fine-tune the diagnosis process, they're finding the numbers are higher of people that have that. Don't know why, it just happens. The future, I think, is bright. Okay. I don't know if a cure, well, I'm sure they'll find a cure someday. You know, there are people far smarter than I am that will figure it out. But I do know there are therapies, drug therapies, that are becoming more and more available and much more convenient for people to take. You know, it started with me, it was doing an injection every other day. Now people can take pills. So I think managing symptoms will become easier, and you know, someday I think they'll find a cure. Okay. You know, the big thing is just, you know, I talk funny. I may have to drink a cup with two hands, but I'm still me. My brain is still in there, it's still working, and maybe I use that slower process to my advantage to think and resolve things, and so that's where I am.
Thank you. Now you have me crying, but thank you for sharing your story, and I think it resonates so much with so many people. So, Dave Longley,
stop crying.
I know. We gotta go get some tissues. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, and big thank you to all the folks out there writing, emailing, stopping me in the store, saying hello. That's all I'm here. I'm still here at Channel 9, the big 9 right there, and I'm still here plugging away, being Jennifer's worst nightmare.
Telling me what to do.
Yeah. Could you do this?
Yes.
You owe me this.
But we need the direction, so we are so appreciative of just everything that you do.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dave Longley, thanks.